Would you include Trump and the Trump administration, and indeed every American administration in modern times, the kind of slavish support for Israel? And the reason I ask that question is because if you look at the split on the conservative right, you can pretty well draw a line between the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others, even Marjorie Taylor Greene to a degree, and others who have been critical of the Israeli government strategy, for example, in the war on Hamas, and those who have steadfastly defended everything Israel has done. There is a running line there developing between the two, and Israel does seem to be a common theme between the split.
Totally. Piers, I'm exhausted, man. You know, I'm tired, bro. I got like 4 little kids. I got a lot of taxing on this business to run, this media company to run. I got a lot of taxing time on my energy. I am so tired of having this Israel debate. I'm so sick of it. And what's happened is they've done a hat game, a shell game, where they've swapped out Ukraine for Israel. And I don't know what the hell is our problem in this country with our obsession with getting involved in other people's business. You know, George Washington, who I think most people would tend to say is our best president. Sorry what he did to you Brits, Piers. I know you'll never forgive him for it. But
actually, I blame King George III. He was such an imbecile.
Truly, that guy was your own Joe Biden. That was your Joe Biden. Piers in England. The two of them would have got along. George Washington, his final words to the American people, his final words, his last speech before he went off into the sunset, something Barack Obama refuses to do. But he went off into the sunset and lived out his days. He said, don't get embroiled in foreign entanglements. That's how we lose this place. That's how we destroy our country. These countries have problems of their own. They have blood feuds. I'm talking about Israel and Ukraine here, by the way. Blood feuds that go back thousands of years before there was an America. And how the hell we're supposed to go in and solve this? We're supposed to like come in and like somehow be the solution to something that it goes back to Abraham or back to the feudal times, like in the Roman Empire, if you're looking at Ukraine. This fanatic obsession. I was enraged, by the way, when somebody put up a Ukraine flag in my neighborhood. Yeah, I live here in Florida. That should be illegal, actually. But like, somebody put up these Ukraine flags. Like I would see them popping up all over my neighborhood. You go to DC, dude, you're more likely to find a pride flag or a Ukraine flag or an Israel flag than you are to find an American flag. What the hell is that, Piers? You know, it's self-loathing. It's this, I think what it really is, if I were to diagnose it, and I'm no good at this, if I would have the most empty therapy couch on earth if I opened up a therapy practice, because people would be like, that guy's got enough problems of his own. But if I were to diagnose it, Piers, here's what I'd say. People know that their country's broken, and they know that this place needs so much work, and that it's going to be tough work, really hard to fix this place. And instead of doing that tough work, they're going to project onto some other country. And we're going to sit here and woke scold about Israel or Palestine, Hamas, and Ukraine, and the Donetsk, whatever, Crimea, Russia, instead of fixing ourselves. It is so much easier to look at someone else and be like, they're a fat ass. They're such a slob. They need to go to the gym. While you're sitting there 150 pounds overweight on the couch. It's so much easier to sit there and like do the work, like say someone else needs to do work instead of working on yourself. And so that's why I'm disgusted, frankly, by our obsession to just swap out the next country. Trust me, it'll be Taiwan next, okay? And then it'll be, Papua New Guinea, whatever, right? It's going to be, we're going to find some other obsession of some other little country that we're going to spend our time and our treasure on. And people are sick of it. I got to tell you, Piers, people are just sick of it. They're done.
Nick Fuentes has posted on X, funny how Republicans became the party of censorship and cancel culture the moment that Americans started criticizing Israel. Any Republican that engages in these tactics on behalf of Israel should be removed from office. It's un-American. 2026, we will be watching. I mean, his influence is rising. Many people are horrified by that because of his obvious anti-Semitism. over the years, his adoration of Adolf Hitler and so on. But you can't deny that he has a rising influence. And when he says that, for example, there'll be many people who may agree with him about the fact that you cannot criticize Israel, and people that are trying to have an open mind about what's happened, for example, in the war, and have been critical of the Israeli government, myself included, have been immediately branded anti-Semitic, which I think is absurd. But talk to me about Fuentes for a moment. What is your view of Fuentes? What do you think? I mean,
by the way, that's insane. Okay, so I just want to take this to its logical fallacy, Piers. I have spent a considerable portion of the last few years on your show, criticizing Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, and I believe that they deserved an enormous amount of criticism. I personally believe that Joe Biden was the worst president of my lifetime, and will go down in history as somebody who was so severely destructive to our land and our nation. So I'm criticizing Joe Biden and the way he's running the government. Does that mean I hate Americans?
Right.
What an insane thing to say.
Yeah.
We've criticized the UK government. You've disagreed with me. You've said this and that, and the mayor of London and all this stuff, and the horrible things that are happening in the UK. Does that mean I hate the British people? Like, of course not, actually. Like, no, you're invited to the cookout anytime, Piers. Anytime.
Well, I oppose, when I was a newspaper...
You're a jolly old elf.
Well, when I was a newspaper... Well, Benny, when I was a newspaper editor over here of the Daily Mirror, which was the Labour-supporting newspaper, I very vociferously, front page after front page, opposed the Iraq war before, during, and after, even when it put me at loggerheads with Tony Blair, who was the Labour Prime Minister. We were supposed to be the pro-Labour newspaper, and I went the other way on that war because I thought it was completely unjustified. But again, to your point, the idea that by opposing what my government was doing, that in any way reflected my view of the people of my country is completely ridiculous. And the idea that you can't criticize the Netanyahu government, which has some absolute headbangers on it, by the way, like Smodrich and Ben-Gvir. The idea you can't cast a critical eye over some of their decision-making without people assuming that you hate Israelis or Jews is just, to me, completely absurd.
Well, yes, and our taxpayer dollars are going to fund it. So, in fact, we have a moral obligation. In fact, we have a moral duty as Americans to ensure that where our taxpayer dollars go, there are not horrific things being done with them. We have a moral obligation as Americans to demand all of the Epstein evidence. I want to know that we're not paying for a pederast ring. I want to know that the American taxpayer dollars are not going to fund and support and to protect people that were involved in the world's most evil pederast ring that we know of right now. Like, I have a right, damn it, as an American to know that. So yes, give us the files, obviously. And there were a lot of Israeli leaders, but Ehud Barak was one of them, some Mossad agents. We're now learning a lot of deals that Epstein was doing with the nation of Israel. Yes, of course you can criticize that. Yes, obviously. That doesn't make you anti-Semitic to say that Jeffrey Epstein negotiating a bunch of security deals on behalf of the nation state of Israel seems extremely suspect.
What is your view, Benny, of Nick Fuentes, given his rising influence and given he's sort of become central to the debate about where the right should go in America? What is your view of him?
Yeah, so we're in this country, I know there's other countries that have different opinions, but in this country, we are given by God a right to free speech, thought, and association. We're also given by God the ability to peacefully disagree with each other. And I know that you've offered to interview Nick Fuentes.
Well, I've been thinking about it. I mean, I had a view before not to. And then I watched the interview that Tucker did with him. And I just thought if I was to do one, I'd probably do it a different way to the way Tucker did. My only argument, look, I totally subscribe to Tucker's view. He can interview who the hell he likes and do it how the hell he likes. I was just struck that he was a bit tougher with me, Tucker, than he was with Fuentes. So I would certainly go harder with Fuentes. But I do think this argument of not platforming people, with very, very, very small number of exceptions, I do think, generally speaking, you should platform people, and then it's down to you to interview them in a way that adds to public discourse and doesn't look like it's just part of their PR machine. That would be my argument.